Welcome to the Cardiac EMA Learner Series, a unique video tutorial program under the aegis of Indian Association of Cardiac Imaging. This program is focused on beginners and intermediate images with learning happening through short sessions and case-based discussions. We are grateful to experts from different parts of India who have helped us in putting this program together. Please do feel free to give us your feedback so we can continually improve such training opportunities. This session is being brought by Dr. Bhavna Nagbhushana Reddy, who is a consultant radiologist working in Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Medical Sciences, Bangalore. Her areas of expertise include adult cardiac MR and adult and congenital cardiac CT. She finished her fellowship training in cardiac imaging in Sathya Sai Institute and has 15 publications and 4 book chapters under her belt. She has received multiple awards in RSNA and ESR, including the RSNA Travel Guide. She is part of the Sathya Sai conference organizing team and is a former program director and part of the DNB teaching program. She is an executive committee member of the Indian Association of Cardiac Imaging.
Hello everyone. In the next 20 minutes, I will be talking about the utility of cardiac MRI in myocarditis. Objectives of this presentation will be to discuss the different diagnostic tools available for myocarditis in general, what are the ideal clinical scenarios where CMR is indicated, when a CMR is performed, what are the diagnostic targets. Next, we will discuss about original Lake-Lewis criteria and how it is different from the 2018 Lake-Lewis criteria. Last but not the least, I will discuss about the prognostic predictors for myocarditis in CMR. Myocarditis is, of course, the inflammation of the myocardium. It affects young adults of both sexes. It has been reported in up to 12% of young adults presenting with sudden death. This stresses the importance of diagnosing myocarditis at the earliest. It is caused by infectious pathogens such as virus, bacteria, and fungi, and non-infectious agents including drugs, toxins, and sarcoidosis. A careful history and thorough clinical assessment have to precede further diagnostic tests. Patients may appear normal, may have non-specific symptoms, but may also present with features of acute MI or heart failure with hemodynamic compromise. Physical examination is usually normal. ECG should be performed in all patients with clinically suspected myocarditis. ECG findings associated with myocarditis may include ST segment and T-wave changes, AV block and Buddle branch block, arrhythmias such as ventricular tachycardia and ventricular fibrillation. ECG has a low specificity. The presence of either ST elevation or T-wave inversion are present in less than 50% of the patients. Serum biomarkers of myocardial injury such as creatinine kinase, CKMB, and troponin may be elevated. When present, the magnitude of rise as well as the time of clearance is similar to that of myocardial infarction and indicates a more severe disease. The prevalence of an increased troponin T in proven myocarditis, however, is only 35 to 45%. Echocardiography helps to rule out non-inflammatory cardiac disease such as valve disease. It also helps to monitor changes in cardiac chamber size, wall thickness, and ventricular function. In summary, history, clinical examination, ECG, and serology have an unsatisfactory diagnostic accuracy in myocarditis. Currently, no single clinical or echo finding confirms the diagnosis of myocarditis. Endomyocardial biopsy is a widely accepted method for diagnosing myocarditis. It is based on histopathology, immunohistology, and molecular techniques to identify viral genomes. The sensitivity is, however, limited due to the so-called sampling error and also suffers from poor inter-observer agreement. Since it is an invasive technique, it is associated with complication. Though considered a gold standard for diagnosis of myocarditis in adults, the recommended indication for endomyocardial biopsy is confined to only patients with heart failure. Therefore, endomyocardial biopsy is not recommended in many patients with less severe disease. Cardiovascular magnetic resonance imaging provides non-invasive tissue characterization of the myocardium and can support the diagnosis of myocarditis. It is reasonable to perform CMR in clinically stable patients prior to endomyocardial biopsy. It is a safe technique. It gives clarity of anatomical visualization, good inter-observer consistency, and quantitative accuracy. A typical appearance of myocarditis on MRI in the correct clinical setting may obviate biopsy. When should you perform CMR? It is generally indicated in patients with current or persisting symptoms and when there is evidence for significant myocardial injury and there is a suspected viral etiology or if the patient is less than 35 years and has a normal coronary angiogram. CMR is of potential use in patients with chest pain, elevated troponin and normal coronary angiogram where it was shown to identify myocarditis in more than 30% of patients. Additional indications may exist for subjects with possible myocarditis, example in professional athletes or for those patients with otherwise unexplained new ECG findings consistent with myocarditis, even in the absence of symptoms suggestive of myocarditis. We now know that myocarditis causes three hallmarks, that is, inflammatory infiltration of the myocardium leading to edema, increased vasopermeability leading to capillary leak causing hyperemia, myocyte necrosis leading to interstitial expansion and scar. These three hallmarks form the diagnostic targets for MRI, which can be assessed in T2 weighted STIR imaging, early gadolinium enhancement imaging and late gadolinium enhancement images respectively. These form part of diagnostic CMR targets for the Lake-Lewis criteria. In the setting of clinically suspected myocarditis, 2 of 3 are positive. The CMR scan is indicative of active myocarditis. This was based on landmark paper published by Frederick et al. In JACC in 2009. Let us look at these diagnostic targets in detail. First is the edema. CMR is the only imaging modality that allows for assessing myocardial edema. T2 weighted short-term inversion recovery or so-called T2 weighted STIR imaging is used. This sequence suppresses the signal from fluid, blood and fat and in turn enhances the sensitivity of myocardial tissue fluid. Edema represents acute and first sign of injury. In the absence of necrosis or scar, it may be reversible. Edema imaging is mostly useful in clinically acute setting, that is during the first 7 to 14 days of the disease. Unfortunately, edema is non-specific. It can also be seen in acute MI, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, idiopathic pulmonary hypertension at junctional zones, and also in Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, where it affects the apical segments amongst many others. To satisfy the criteria for myocarditis, global signal intensity increase has to be quantified by a signal intensity ratio of myocardium over skeletal muscle and this has to be more than 2. EGE or hyperemia sequence typically is a non-breath hold T1 weighted black blood fast spin echo protocol. It can be performed in short axis or with sometimes more robust image quality axial views like in this image. To satisfy the criteria for myocarditis, global signal enhancement increase has to be quantified by a ratio of myocardium over skeletal muscle and this ratio should be 4 or more, or the absolute myocardial enhancement of 45% or more compared with pre-contrast imaging. Unfortunately, this sequence is not respiratory or cardiac triggered and hence prone to respiratory and cardiac artifacts. Long acquisition time is another limitation. Late gadolinium enhancement are inversion recovery sequences acquired 10 minutes after injection of gadolinium and are very robust. These helps us to visualize irreversible injury, that is necrosis, in the acute setting and scar at a chronic stage. The regional distribution is typically distinct from ischemic lesions, which invariably include subendocardial layers, whereas myocarditis typically exclude subendocardial region. In less severe cases of myocarditis, necrosis may be absent, which explains why there is difference in sensitivity of LGE in myocarditis, varying from 29 to 88% in various publications. Different patterns of myocardial enhancement can be identified in cardiac MRI. These include the most common pattern, that is subepicardial enhancement. There can also be midventricular pattern of enhancement and also multifocal and diffuse enhancement as seen in this patient. Let us look at a case. This is a 51-year-old patient who presented with chest pain and negative coronary angiogram. On STIR imaging, there is global myocardial increase in signal intensity as the ratio of myocardium over skeletal muscle is more than 2, consistent with myocardial edema. On early gadolinium enhancement, there is absolute myocardial enhancement of more than 45% when compared with pre-contrast T1. So this is consistent with hyperemia. On LGE, there is subepicardial pattern of enhancement in basal to apical inferoseptal and basal to apical anteroseptal segments in a non-ischemic pattern. In this case, all three targets for Lake-Lewis criteria are met and hence consistent with acute myocarditis. During these 10 years, the use of Lake-Lewis criteria has dramatically improved the diagnosis of myocarditis in cardiac MRI, enjoying a sensitivity of 72% and specificity of around 96%. But there were shortcomings of this criteria. The T1 weighted spin echo sequence during free breathing frequently suffered from poor image quality. T2 weighted images had low SNR, and LGE alone may fail to detect acute myocarditis, as some patients only present with acute myocardial inflammation or edema. And inflammation can be a diffuse process even involving the skeletal muscles. And when this happens, these can lead to negative results as we are comparing signal intensity and enhancement in myocardium with skeletal muscles. In 2018, mapping techniques were incorporated into Lake-Lewis criteria. This criteria mandates the use of both T1 based and T2 based imaging for diagnosis. Here for edema, you could either use increase in T2 values from T2 mapping or T2 STIR as it was used in original Lake-Lewis criteria. This formed one part of the criteria. To identify hyperemia, necrosis or scar, you could either use increase of native T1 values, increase of ECV derived from post-contrast T1 mapping, or positive non-ischemic LGE. Of importance is the omission of early gadolinium enhancement images. When this was done, though the specificity remained same, there was 15% improvement in sensitivity. So this formed the basis for 2018 modified Lake-Lewis criteria, which was described in 2018 and continues to be used for diagnosis of myocarditis on CMR, and mapping techniques are available. What are these mapping techniques? Mapping techniques generate pixel-wise quantitative maps of the myocardium. Each pixel of the map provides a numerical T1 or T2 value of the image tissue. It does not rely on image signal intensity to diagnose pathology and hence has high spatial resolution. Each tissue type, including the myocardium, has a characteristic range of normal T1 or T2 values, deviation from which may indicate myocarditis. T1 and T2 relaxation times are highly sensitive to detect increased free water content in the myocardium, and hence these are ideal for detecting acute myocardial inflammation. This graph clearly demonstrates the improvement in diagnostic accuracy by using mapping techniques. As you can see, T1 native and T2 mapping have better accuracy compared to T2 stir or early gadolinium enhancement, and hence there is significant improvement in diagnostic accuracy of 2018 Lake-Lewis criteria compared to the original Lake-Lewis criteria. Let's look at a case. This is a 30-year-old patient with chest pain and syncope. 4-chamber and 2-chamber cine demonstrate dilated left ventricle, global LV hypokinesia, mitral regurgitation leading to dilated left atrium. LGE images demonstrate subepicardial pattern of enhancement in the anterolateral and inferolateral segments and also in the inferior segments. So this is in a non-ischemic pattern. Native T1 values were increased. So though only one part of the modified Lake-Lewis criteria is satisfied, this could be a chronic myocarditis, but you should not stop at this stage. Always look at your localizers and haste image, because this patient had paratracheal and bilateral hilar lymphadenopathy. So you can go one step further. This is not just myocarditis, this was a case of myocarditis due to sarcoidosis. CMR not only helps in diagnosis but also plays a major role in prognosis of patients with myocarditis. The 4 important prognostic factors include RV dysfunction, patterns of LGE, left ventricular ejection fraction, and mapping techniques. This is a 32-year-old patient with dyspnea on exertion. 4-chamber cine demonstrates dilated left ventricle and global hypokinesia. On LGE, there is multifocal diffuse patchy type of enhancement in LV and also in the RV free wall. Native T1 values were increased. So this was a case of dilated cardiomyopathy due to non-ischemic disease with biventricular involvement, likely due to myocarditis. But the most important thing here is the involvement of right ventricle, and its involvement is a poor prognostic factor for myocarditis, which has been suggested as early as in 1994. Also, RV systolic dysfunction has been shown to be an independent predictor for adverse heart failure outcomes. Patterns of LGE were studied as a predictor of prognosis by Graney et al. In 670 patients. So they observed that septal pattern was associated with Q waves in ECG, and major adverse cardiac events were more common in midwall patchy involvement and septal LGE. Lateral location did not show significant association with MACE. The association of LGE with left ventricular ejection fraction was studied as well. It was found that when LVEF was more than 40%, these patients had better event-free survival compared to those with LVEF less than 40%. In the subset of patients with LVEF more than 40%, the absence of LGE had a significantly better prognosis compared to those with presence of LGE. However, in the subset of patients when LVEF was less than 40%, the presence or absence of LGE did not make a difference, and these patients invariably had poor event-free survival. Mapping techniques were studied as well. ECV derived from post-contrast T1 mapping showed a significant association with MACE. It might be of additional value for outcome prediction in patients with myocarditis. We don't know yet. So larger studies are required to make definitive conclusions. Acute myocarditis is a common clinical entity, but challenging to diagnose due to low sensitivity of conventional diagnostic tools. Although endomyocardial biopsy is the gold standard, several limitations restrict its widespread application. CMR represents a non-invasive, powerful diagnostic tool to detect the 3 hallmarks of myocarditis. 2018 Lake-Lewis criteria improves the diagnostic accuracy of CMR. RV dysfunction, septal midwall patterns of LGE, low left ventricular ejection fraction predict adverse outcome. Thank you. I hope you find this presentation useful.